So I'm going to take you back across the week very, very briefly. On the first day, Monday, we heard from Peter Gardner at Seaton Villa in Sydney. That's a service for people with learning disabilities in their own homes. He talked about the theory of change leading to a socially valued lifestyle of the people's own choosing. And he said that decision-making is a fundamental right for all human beings. He spoke about dignity and inclusion. And he spoke at length about communication being essential for leading to personal planning processes. And I think the phrase that I picked out from what he said was creating moments that matter. So there was a lot there in all of it that he shared about personal engagement in people's lifestyle choices. On the second day, we had a film which was filmed inside Edward Alsop Court, which is a look-ahead homelessness project in Westminster. Beautifully made film. Thank you again, Rihanna, for making that film and for getting the permission to, because that wouldn't have been easy. And we had Nashandi from VCP on hand, it being a VCP service, to answer our questions. And I think what came across to me anyway in that was the attention again to one-to-one individual care. Somebody used the word rapport, which was picked up by someone in the question and answers as being such an important word. Again, oh, sorry about this. Again, communication came out very strongly as something which has to be there in order for people to make progress, and that involves listening. Unique and innovative were words that were shot through this film, because it is the first of its kind, and that's something to be commended. Somebody said in the middle of that presentation, must have been one of the staff, that Vivat is a battery reset. I thought that was kind of interesting way of describing Vivat. I don't know if Maureen was there that day. She's not here today. But Vivat is a battery reset. I took that on board. I think that one of the biggest things that came through for me on that day was that the self-giving of the staff, which was emphasized by somebody, that actually this kind of self-sacrifices, it must have been Nashandi, that the staff had made in the service and in engaging with this service was enormous because of the difficulties of the engagement. There was a lot of self-giving, a lot of commitment, and finding ways around things. On the third day, we had a conversation with St. Joseph's Board of Advisors, a group of people they support, talking about their experience of influencing St. Joseph's itself. And I guess we were all caught up by words like inclusion, participation, communication. We saw some of the ways in which the meetings were held with little communication tools and that type of thing. There was a lot about belonging and they talked about fun and hard work. And that three of their own values came through loud and clear. Respect, friendship, and choice are all in their values program. If you get their little calendar, they take one of those every month. So again, a lot of emphasis on communication and on personal choice. Yesterday, we had an amazing presentation from Marilat Neurological Care Centre from Paul, Tess and Kathy. Again, the emphasis on individual respect, dignity and choice, even if it's against the advice of the medical profession. That's fascinating, isn't it? Even if it was against advice. And then the staff did everything they could to increase the ability of the person to deliver that choice, no matter how difficult it was. Well, that's taking person-centered to a whole new level. So there was talk as well about isolation as something which most of our service users would experience. There was something very holistic about the therapy and the activities, people sort of working together for more of the social side of looking after people who were very disabled, and a huge amount of detailed attentiveness to each person being necessary for the service to be that way. And today, this morning, obviously I've been scribbling notes furiously this morning with Dakota and our social care research. Obviously, this applied only to England, and so I was aware of that. It's been slightly different in Scotland, and we don't really know. We haven't got as far as Australia yet, but I see the participants here from Australia. You can't have Dakota, but we'll have to see if you can have whoever follows him in Australia. You never know, dream on. So Rihanna and Dakota, thank you very much for the huge, because you're here, the huge amount of work that's gone into this, and lots and lots and lots more to come. You made that very clear, that you're at the beginning of interpreting these results. I think what I want to say about all of this area of DC Services work is that it is the role of DC Services to kind of span sectors, and particularly the sectors we're involved in. So in this case, we have care organisations in our group, Vincentian Care Plus, Marillac Neurological Care Centre, and St Joseph's in particular, as well as the 3 care homes that are run by the Daughters of Charity, for the Daughters of Charity, who were involved in the research. And then we had presentation this week from Seaton Villa, who would fit into that category, and also St Catherine's, which is a very large nursing home in Sydney. And I think we would find that there was much in common everywhere if we put all of that together. So what's this doing? For me, it's leading to awareness, building awareness, and then advocacy. We keep hearing about this, but there's no real evidence base has been collected. So in DC Services taking on this type of role in the future, spanning sectors, and not on their own, but being involved in joining others in campaigns around these sorts of issues. We have evidence. That's what makes us credible. We have evidence. We run organizations that suffer from some of these issues. And in doing this, we're finding a voice for justice. We're trying to join the dots between our services, the evidence we can collect, collaborating with very many others who may be sharing our experience, and then having influence, huge as much as we can, with the policymakers, and flagging up in the doing unmet need, which in the future we may be able to respond to in practical ways. Who knows? Underneath all of that, like all of the other participants of this week, is about the way people are treated. In this case, employees. But if our employees are not treated properly, the knock-on effect is to the people who are being supported by those employees, inevitably. So what can we conclude from this week that we can carry forward to our projects and to our thinking? Just pause a minute. Looking back on the week, what is stirring in you now? What's rising up for you, standing out for you in remembering the week or the sessions you attended? And what is the one thing you will take away from this week? Just pause to reflect yourself personally for a moment or two. You might all have a different answer to that, and there are people missing who have been with us in other parts of the week, And some of you haven't been at all of the week, but I would remind you that it's all been recorded, and all the recordings are on the website, or Rihanna will send us out some kind of a link anyway to the recordings, won't you, Rihanna? Yeah,
we'll do. They're on
lovely.
YouTube, but they're also linked from our website as well.
So that's good that we can kind of complete the week if we weren't here every day. Just keep those things in mind. And if you have a particular thing you want to flag up by way of evaluation or by way of answering those questions I just asked you, please drop a line to Rihanna, because it will all be good in putting together next year's programme. And it's good for us anyway to get some reflections from you as a result of the week. So just drop Rihanna a line. Her email you've probably got, but it will come out when she sends the link to the recordings. I'm going to share with you what my answer to some of these questions are. So when I put the week together, for me, every presentation, each service and today's presentation kind of oozed uniqueness and innovation. If you think about it, the theory of change approach to people with learning disability, making decision-making a fundamental right. That's not common practice as far as I know. It's unique and it's innovative. Certainly, working with homeless people in a hostel for a domiciliary care service is pioneering. As far as I know, there are very few boards of advisors in the way that St. Joseph's has developed theirs that influence any other service, certainly any other service that we run. And I think it would be hard to find, not just in learning disability, but anywhere. And then the extraordinary attentiveness about working with people with severe brain injury and maximizing their capacity and ability to develop choice. Again, it's all above and beyond the call of duty. And we know from listening to Dakota that there's only one other research project. And in spite of all we hear about the care sector, there's only one other project that we know of that is looking at this. So every presentation has oozed uniqueness and innovation. St. Vincent and St. Louise and Blessed Rosalie Rondeau would be absolutely thrilled with us, because that's what they were always at. What is outside the box? What is nobody noticing? And what can we do about it? Above and beyond the extra mile. And it's the plus of being values-led, and particularly Vincentian values-led. Again, throughout the week, I've experienced mutuality. The attitude that says every person is unique, and we believe in the uniqueness of each person, and the desire to evoke the best and give every opportunity. And it's mutual because it applies to me as well. It applies to the whole organization, not just the people we serve, but all of us. There's a solidarity and an equality in our approach to delivering care. Accompaniment of each other, standing in solidarity. And this is where it begins. It begins with working on myself and my own attitudes to my belief in human beings. The fourth point that I picked out was the emphasis on communication, on good communication, no matter what the circumstances. Every effort was needed and displayed in each presentation, including the last one, the effort of communication. And not, when people are trying to communicate, not guessing, but waiting. Not preempting what somebody's trying to say, but waiting for them to say it. Caring enough to listen and take the time, not making assumptions. And the whole premise that isolation, which is the result of non-communication, is not acceptable. And whilst I'm thinking about that sort of attitude of the mutuality, you know, people talk a lot about empowerment. None of us can empower somebody else. They have to empower themselves. It comes from within the person. But we can disempower very easily without realizing it. Well, I have to say there's been no sign of that this week. Making assumptions disempowers people and a lot of other things that you do see happening. And that leads to something that's been writ large throughout the whole week, and that's the whole concept of choice. Choice comes from treating each other with dignity, with listening, with believing that decision-making is a human right, being absolute in attentiveness and belief in the individual. If there's anything that underpins a Vincentian service, it's attention to the individual in a relational way with a rapport that is genuine and mutual. And all of this, all week, underpinning, I have felt that it's held lightly. You know, that all of this is not a burden, but a joy. And the rejoicing in small steps, depending on who you're supporting, the rejoicing in small steps towards choice. For me, all of those things, everybody held in common, and they're all fantastic hallmarks of what we stand for. The point that came out with VCP about self-giving, I'm still thinking about, because if we don't take care of ourselves and each other, we are not going to maximize our own potential for caring. So I'm reflecting on that, and I think that we need to develop something across the group about reflection, about debrief, about how we look after each other, reflective practice, particularly, and if there is, you know, if there are difficulties or if there is emotional impact, that we need to take care of ourselves and each other. And I think for me, again, the final presentation today that's digging under how do we take care of the carers is fundamental. And in our organizational behavior, we need to be careful that we are treating everybody with mutuality, and that the people we support and ourselves are benefiting from that relational individual approach. So with those final thoughts, I thank you for your attention this week, for the greatness that you are when we put it all together, for all that you represent, and all your faces on the screen and those that of others that have come during the week represent so many more people behind you, so many more people that you reach out to, and many more who haven't made it to these sessions. In the interest of all that we've learned this week, I would suggest that we send invitations next year to the people we support, as well as to the organizations that belong to us. I thank you from the bottom of my heart for who you are, what you are doing, and I promise you prayers and support as you continue. Thank you very much.